the plone and multimedia talk. And this is the integrators track, so if you're here to learn, if you're a developer looking to see a lot of technical stuff, I won't be showing very much technical. It's mostly about using plone, using plone for multimedia. So I will talk a little bit at the end about how to integrate plone in your site. So if you are a developer, that may be of interest to you, but it's mostly for integrators. So my name is Nate Ani. My company is Jazzcarta, based in Boston, Massachusetts, and we do plone consulting, hosting, support, training. Been using plone since around 2002. Started my company in 2004. And the last few years I've been working with a project called Plone for Artists. Some of you may be familiar with that, which started out as a project to build artist community sites using plone, and has since evolved to be more of a general purpose suite of products for plone for doing multimedia, calendaring, uploading, kind of supporting the whole stack. So I don't know if for those of you that are on the mailing list, I sent out an email to request questions from the audience and from people who couldn't be here at the conference about things that they're interested in knowing about plone and multimedia. So during the course of this talk, if you are able to get internet access, you can go to this URL and either add your own question or you can vote on the questions that have already been submitted. And then at the end, during the question and answer time, I'll just kind of take them from top to bottom. So this was about an hour ago I checked, and that was the top question. Of course, I'll also take questions from the audience, but if you want to, put your question up there and invite people to vote on it, that might save us some time. Okay, so before I get started, how many people in here are already using multimedia on their plone site? Raise your hand. Okay, so about half of you. How many people are thinking about adding multimedia to your site? Okay. So can anyone tell me what this graph is here? What is this representing? Good one. This is the reach of YouTube since 2004. You can see it's pretty exponential growth, and this is actually old. This is from November of 2007, almost a year old. So I think it's pretty safe to say that video has really taken off. I mean, if you use YouTube as a metric, the popularity of video on the internet is growing exponentially. Consumers are coming to expect video to be on websites, and it's a very useful way of getting your message out to people, whether you're a nonprofit trying to promote your mission, or whether you're a business trying to promote your products. It's becoming increasingly important way of communicating that. So on the other end of on-demand video, we have. Sorry, I just want to show this slide. This is showing that YouTube is the number 4 visited site on the internet today. Does anyone know what the number 1 site is? Google, of course. You can see YouTube is even ahead of Facebook. It's trailing a little bit behind MySpace and Yahoo, but still a very, very popular site. So can anyone give a definition of podcasting? Anyone want to throw out a definition? I'll give you a hint. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the iPod, despite the name. Recording an audio session and publishing it on the internet. That's a pretty good definition. If you go to Wikipedia, or the modern day oracle of all things, all knowledge, they say a podcast is a digital media file or related collection of such files which is distributed over the internet using syndication feeds for playback on portable media players and personal computers. So simplifying that, a podcast is downloadable media that can be consumed in any device. So not just the iPod, but your computer, your Windows media device, whatever kind of portable device that you carry around with you, whether it's an iPhone or whatever. A podcast is a way to distribute the content that's on your website to portable music devices for on-demand playback. So these devices don't have to be connected to the internet. They can just be, you're on the subway and you don't have Wi-Fi, but you can be listening to a podcast. So some of you maybe are like me and you like to listen to NPR. You can get pretty much all the NPR programming. Instead of through terrestrial radio, you can get it onto your portable device and listen to your favorite programs anytime. For those of you that do have iPods, there's of course the iTunes Music Store, which is a very popular place for people to subscribe to podcasts. And there's even now companies out there that are distributing podcasts to your cell phone. So you don't even need to have an iPod, an expensive, portable music playing device. You can listen to the music. Obviously, it's lower fidelity, but if it's just audio, speech, you don't really care so much. So just a few more facts to kind of set the tone. FeedBurner, which is a popular RSS syndication service, distributes more than 47,000 podcasts, which means that there's more podcasters than there are radio stations. It's an interesting thought. And the rate at which new podcasters emerge on the scene has doubled every 6 months. And by the end of the decade, video content will comprise 90% of all web traffic, says Jerry Yang from Yahoo. Of course, he's a visionary, but we'll see if that comes true. This is another prediction that by 2010, 56.8 million Americans will be using time-shifted digital audio files or podcasts. It's a pretty large chunk of the population. And the use of podcasting among U.S. consumers is growing at a compound rate of 101%. So these are all, predictions of the future, but the question for us today is, well, how can your organization or your business publish and aggregate relevant multimedia? You're probably asking yourself, well, I use Plone. How can I do this with Plone? But maybe you don't use Plone, or maybe you're wondering whether Plone is the right tool. So the first solution would be you upload your media to YouTube or Google Video or Blip or one of these online services that are targeted more towards consumers. And the pros of this is, of course, there's no setup costs, there's no bandwidth costs, there's no hosting costs. It's really easy to get started. And a lot of people do this. It's very convenient. The problem is that there's no branding, there's no privacy, there's not a whole lot of flexibility doing it this way. You pretty much, all of your content is going to be branded with YouTube or branded with Google Video or Blip or whatever. So the other thing you might think is, well, let's buy a CMS or let's build our own CMS. And a lot of people try to do this. And of course, the pros are that you get your own brand and identity. It's secure, it's private. You can run it, behind the corporate firewall, and you have no end to the amount of customization and integration that you can do. The problems with this are that it's expensive, typically. You have to create your own content. You can't really pull down existing content. And you have to maintain and support this. Instead of, some commercial company doing it for you, you have to basically maintain all the software. So the solution I'm going to propose to you all is sort of a hybrid solution number one plus solution number two, which is to use Plone as your open source CMS and combine that with multimedia add-ons. And we're going to get to exactly how this works. But first I'm going to just show you, for those of you who haven't seen these screencasts, I'm just going to show you two relatively short screencasts just so you can kind of see where we're at with these things. So how many people here have already seen the audio and video screencasts? A few of you. Okay, so this may be, repeat for some of you, but for those who haven't, just want to see. So this is the audio component. Let's make this bigger. Oops, didn't want to do that. Can everyone see that? Okay. So, this is our Plone site, and we want to add some audio to our site. So, go up to the Add folder item and Add New Item. The guy who's doing the screencast is Japanese, so I apologize for the language. So you just add a normal file, just like you normally would with your website. And now what Plone is doing now is it's detecting that what you uploaded was actually an MP3 file and not just a normal file. So it grabs the cover art image, it grabs the track number, the artist, the album, the year, all this different metadata just automatically gets extracted out of the file. And you can play it back right in the browser. If I turn my audio up, you would hear it playing right now. There's a little pop-up player that you can also play the audio, so you can still navigate around on the site while the audio is playing. You can also click download, and then it will download it and launch iTunes or whatever your audio player is. Yeah, that was actually streaming it. So this would be to actually download the file. So you have, let's say you're unplugging your computer and you're going on a plane and you want to listen to this. The other thing is that when you edit this content in Plone, it will actually write that metadata back to the MP3 file. So in a sense, Plone becomes an ID3 tag editor. So you may have edited your content in iTunes or whatever. This lets you edit this content in Plone, and if that file gets distributed out to someone's iPod or on a peer-to-peer network or whatever, it'll retain that metadata that you edited inside Plone. So if you click the Edit tab, you can see I can change the title, I can change the album, the artist, I can change the cover image. So let's just change the cover image to this flower. I can change the year, the genre. These are immutable properties, so these are things you can't change, like the bit code, the bit rate, and that sort of thing. So now you can see that it has a new cover image. And if I download it in iTunes, you can see it now has this new cover image. So that's great. You can add audio files. The other thing that we've added is the ability of changing a normal folder in your Plone site to what's called an audio enhanced folder. So I just have a normal folder here with some MP3 files, and if I go to the Actions menu and say I want to make this into an audio folder, it decorates this folder and says this is now an audio folder. And now this content shows up as a playlist with play buttons next to each track. And I can click on this pop-up player, and then it's a little bit hard to see, but there's this little widget that allows me to select all the different tracks in that folder and jump back and forth between them. There's also an RSS feed, so I can subscribe to this as a podcast, this folder of audio files. So I'm now going to iTunes, subscribing to that, and there's that audio file that I added to my site, now gets downloaded into my iTunes music player. So just as I can add audio to a normal folder, I can also create a smart folder. So let's say that I had audio in one folder in one section of my site, and I had another audio file in another section of my site. I can apply that audio enhanced marker interface, as we call it, to that folder, to that smart folder. We now call it a collection. So now we're aggregating all my audio, right, from everywhere on the site. And just to say that we want to grab files, I go into the Criteria tab, and I say I want all files that have the MIME type audio/MPEG. So that identifies that these are MP3 files. And again, I go to the Actions menu and I say, make this an audio file, and now I have 3 audio files that are pulled from all over the site that are all getting aggregated in this one collection. And similar to the normal folder, I can also download that as a podcast. Typically, it's not a good idea to store large files in the Zope database because they're large, and every time you make an edit, it actually makes a copy of that file. So we've added some support for the Plone for Artists suite of products that you can store these files on the file system instead of in the ZODB. And I'm going to talk more about that later. But this is one approach, is to add what's called a blob file. And it's like a file, except that it stores, a blob stands for binary large object. So this is taking a file that I upload, and it's putting it onto the file system, and I can then back up those files or put them on a streaming server or do whatever else I want with them, and they're not locked up in my ZODB. We've also integrated with a product that was developed by Utah State University. Is Brent or David in the room? They're not here. Okay. These guys developed a really cool product called content licensing, which allows you to assign a Creative Commons license to your audio files, your video files, well, actually any kind of content in your Plone site. And that can be really useful if you're getting user-contributed content and you want to make sure that those users have the ability of saying how they want that content to be used on your site. So Jonathan Lewis, he's not Japanese, obviously from his name, but he does live in Japan and speaks Japanese. He was very kind and offered to put together these screencasts. He's not here at the conference, but I just want to thank him for doing that. So that was the audio product. The next one is the video. And let's see if I can make this a little bigger. And these screencasts are on plone.tv, by the way, if you want to watch them later. Oh, it's a little grainy, isn't it? Okay, well, hopefully you can still see what's going on. So the whole idea with Plone for us, audio and video is that we don't want to introduce any new content types. We already have a file content type, so why make an audio and video file, right? Why not just call it a file, and then people can add a file, and then Plone is smart enough to figure out what that thing is. So you say add a file, and you browse for your file. In this case, we're going to pick an MP4 file. And I can click play, and this is a QuickTime. It loads the QuickTime player right in my browser and starts playing it back. So you notice I just uploaded a normal file, and Plone said, hey, you're uploading a video file. Let's change the view and make it look like a video. It also extracted some metadata like the size, the file type, the height and the width of the video file, so it knows how big to make it. So we're just adding a little bit of rich text. You'll also notice that we've added a rich text field because maybe you want to have some commentary about this video, and a title and description isn't enough. You want to have some links to some other information. So we've integrated a rich text field so you can annotate this video. You can also add a splash image, as you saw there. So when you click on the image, it replaces the image with the actual video. You can add comments to the videos. This is all built-in Plone functionality. And similar to the audio containers, you can also make a video container. So let's say you've got a normal folder of some videos. You can go and select video container, and then it takes that image and makes a thumbnail out of it, and then also shows if there's been any ratings or comments on that particular video. And as with the audio, we can also make a collection and turn that into a video container. So in this case, we have two folders, one Sri Lanka and one Japan, and both of these folders contain a video, and we can make a collection that aggregates the videos from both of those two video folders. So again, we go to the Criteria tab, and for our field, we choose item type, and then we're going to select File. And again, here we could also put the MIME type if you want to specify like just the QuickTime files or just the Flash files or whatever. And then we go up to the subtype menu and say, turn this into a video container, and it applies that. So some of you may not be aware that iTunes not only supports audio podcasting, but also supports video casting. So you can have videos pulled into your iTunes player, and if you have a video iPod, you can have that content pulled down into your video iPod player. So there's the video that we added to our Plone site, which is now showing up in our iTunes. And if we had a portable iPod, we could watch that video on our device. And this is the collection. So here we're also subscribing to that. So one of the interesting aspects of the video product is, let's say you don't want to upload all these videos, to your Plone site. You just want to pull down existing videos that are already been posted to YouTube or Google Video or Blip. The advantage is that you don't actually have to host all these videos yourself. You can let YouTube pay for the bandwidth and the hosting costs, and you can just pull those down and display them on your Plone site. So let's say we want to take this keynote from the Seattle Plone Conference by Eben Moglen from the Software Freedom Law Center. We wanted to display this video in our Plone site. So instead of choosing a file, we choose a link, because this is a link to an external site. We just paste in that YouTube link into the URL field. And it recognizes this is a URL from a YouTube video, and it embeds the YouTube video right in our Plone site. You notice it also extracted the title, the description, the source URL, and some other metadata directly from the YouTube site. And we also support blip.tv, Google Video. I think there's like a dozen different video sharing sites. Question?
Can we post this anywhere and point this to a URL? We have files on the streaming server.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we've architected the software so it's completely extensible and customizable. It's just a few extra things you have to add in the code to say we want to point at this server instead of Google Video or Blip. So we're using Zope3's component architecture, so you can look at the examples for YouTube and Blip and just add your own. So just like we have RSS feeds for files, you can also make an RSS feed for the videos that you're aggregating from YouTube and Blip and Google and all these other sites out there. You can see that I'm using Google Reader as my RSS reader, and those videos are showing up in my RSS reader. So here's an example of a video that's hosted on blip.tv. This is from the Scientific Tools and Documentation Sprint. So both of these products are now running on Plone 2.5 and Plone 3, and they've also been tested in Plone 3.1. Again, Jonathan Lewis, I want to thank him for putting these together. He did a really great job of editing it all down and making it concise. That was a 6-minute screencast. It covered a lot of functionality. Okay. So we did that. So who's using these different tools? Just a few. Oh, question? Yes. Did you have a question or? Oh, okay. I wasn't asking the question, but I would like to hear from you if you're using the software. I've highlighted a few. For those of you that are on the Plone for Artists mailing list, I sent out a mail last week and said, hey, if you're using these tools, let me know, because I'm going to be giving a talk, and I got a few responses. So I'm just going to highlight a few sites. This is a site in Austria called phonogen.com, and they have a lot of artists who are uploading their CDs and their MP3s, and you can see they've styled it to look very different than the stock Plone. But this is using the Plone for Artists audio product to let musicians upload their music to Plone and play it back. This is a site I'm trying to remember, I think in the UK. And this particular organization, they used to be sending out DVDs to all of their constituents, and it was very costly and time-consuming, and it is a difficult distribution mechanism. And with Plone for Artists Video, they can now post all the videos to their website and just send their stakeholders and their users the link to the site, and they can watch all the videos on the website. So they're saving a lot of time and money in distributing that video content. This is a site in Japan that won an award for web accessibility, and this is a site for physically disabled musicians who don't really get very many opportunities to perform live. So this site was created to give them an opportunity to upload their music so people could hear what they had created. It's also using the Plone for Artists video and audio products. This is another site from Japan, the Center for Peace and Reconciliation, and they've used the Plone for Artists audio product to record interviews with various people. And they received, I think, like a $15,000 grant from EMC to extend this site and add more functionality. So they've been one of the premier sponsors of this software. And then the last site, the one that I want to talk about, is a site that we built called plone.tv. How many people have been on plone.tv? Okay, a lot of you. So I probably won't tell you anything you don't already know. But for those of you who haven't been on the site, the goal of plone.tv was really to, one, aggregate all the multimedia content about Plone that was out on the internet. When I first started getting into this, there was, videos from the 2004 Plone conference that were on an FTP server somewhere, and there was some other cool screencasts on someone's blog, and stuff was just kind of scattered all over the place. And I thought, well, we should really try to aggregate this somewhere, so make it easy for people to find and search and contribute their own content. So that was the original intent of plone.tv. And I guess the second thing was just to showcase the software and show what it can do. So we have both the audio and the video component installed on here, and anyone can create an account and upload either a video file, an audio file, or you can upload a video to YouTube or Google Video or Blip and also embed that on the site. So some statistics, as of this morning there were 282 videos, 32 screencasts, 17 audio files, 157 members had joined, and 99 ratings. So I wanted to show Plone TV because I think it gives a good example of what maybe your organization, if you were thinking of getting into video, some of the things you could do with a site like this. So imagine that you're an author and you want to put some video content on your site. Well, you might author that content yourself, make a screencast or a video, an interview, or you may want to aggregate that content. Maybe you don't want to create it yourself because you're too busy, but you know of some really great content on Google or YouTube that you really want your website visitors to see, but you don't want to send them off to YouTube. You want to keep them on your site. So just as you do with other content in Plone, you submit that, and then you go on to publish it. So what we did is to try to make, you saw the screencast, and you saw that it's still a little bit clunky, the interface for adding this content. So we kind of dumbed down the add new content way that it's typically done in Plone and made this more simple, what I think is more simple submit form. So if you upload a file, you basically have these 4 choices, and you can see it's just a file browse button. That's it. That's all you need to do. You just browse for your file, you click upload, and then it submits it to your site. Similarly with a link, you just paste in a link from any one of these sites, and it goes out and fetches that video and puts it on your Plone site. So that's for an author. Now, the other kind of person you might have is someone who's consuming this content, a seeker. It's coming to your site. And typically the way they would find your content is either by browsing for it. They're not exactly sure what they're looking for, but they're kind of just browsing around on your site. Or they might actually be looking for a specific thing, and they type a search. That's a pretty common way. I mean, Google has shown us you don't need anything more than a search box on your home page, and that's incredibly utilitarian if it's a good search tool. Once they found that content, they might want to do something with it. They might want to comment on it. They might want to rate it. They might want to tag it. They might want to subscribe to other content like the one that they just found. So this Plone gives you a really nice way to engage with your website visitors, not just have them passively consume content, but actually participate in a dialogue, a conversation with you. So we all know in Plone 3 you have this really cool live search feature. You can just start typing. So if I type multimedia, these search results sort of dynamically appear as I'm typing. And if I type the word grok, for example, let's say I want to find any multimedia content on Plone.tv about grok, I just type that, and it says it found 3 matching items. It's a little hard to see, but it's actually highlighting the word grok, so I can see why it found that particular piece of content. And a little hidden gem of Plone, some of you may not be aware of, is that you can subscribe to the search results as an RSS feed. So that means you can just right-click on that RSS icon, subscribe to it in Google Reader or whatever your RSS reader is, and then whenever any new content is added to your Plone site that matches those keywords, it'll show up in your RSS feed. So you don't even need to visit the plone.tv site. You can just, if there's a particular topic you're interested in, you just subscribe to that, and then your RSS reader will tell you whenever there's something new that's been added to the site. So that's searching. Another way would be browsing, and we provide several different ways to browse for the content. One is by sorting by the most recent, the most discussed, the most viewed, and the most or highest rated. So you might think that most viewed and highest rated are similar, but actually they might be quite different, because you might have a video that's really popular, a lot of people are viewing it, but maybe they're too lazy to rate it. So we provide these two different ways of searching. You might also want to filter and say, I only want to, I only have the audio iPod, I don't have a video iPod, so I only want audio content. So you could filter by audio and just have that content pulled down. Or maybe you're not really interested in interviews and videos from sprints. You're more interested in instructional materials like screencasts. So you can click on screencasts, and then you'll just get screencast content. And I'll mention that all of these were created using Plone's out-of-the-box functionality. So we didn't have to write any, difficult templates. We just used the collection and just set criteria. So your non-technical users can create these different ways of browsing this multimedia content on your Plone site. And as I already mentioned, there's a subscribe button on each one of these. So if you want to subscribe to just the most recent videos, we're also using FeedBurner for this, so we can see how many subscribers we have. And I think this is probably the most popular one. I mean, it makes sense. I only want to hear about most recent content that's added to the site. So then we have community feedback. Like, as I mentioned, people can tag, they can rate, they can comment. So this is a video from the conference in Naples last year. Vincenzo uploaded this video. And it's a really interesting talk by Jared Whitlock from Novell.com, talking about how they're using Plone at Novell. You can obviously play this back right in the browser. If you really like the video, you can rate it. And it keeps track of your rating as well as the average rating. So it'll show you how other people voted for this video. You can also add tags to the video, and it keeps track of the tags that everyone has added to the site as well as your own tags. So you can kind of create your own personal tag cloud. So when you log in, it's personalized for you, and it shows you just the tags that you're interested in on the site. And lastly, we put the source URL to the original file or the original video. So maybe you want to go to blip.tv and watch this file on Blip. This also gives credit back to the original author of this content. Since you are essentially taking that content off of another website and pulling it on your own, you really want to credit the original author. And we all know that Plone has a built-in commenting tool, so you can also have a threaded conversation about any piece of content on your Plone site. So that's the author and the seeker. Well, what about the administrator, right? Someone's got to manage all this stuff, right? So typically an administrator will want to customize the site. They want to maybe change the logo. They want to change the skin, brand it to your company. And maybe you're integrating this at a university or a company where you have a Active Directory. You've got people who already have usernames and passwords to log onto their company network. Well, you can use Plone to let people log on to your multimedia site or your existing Plone site and use the same username and password that they use to log onto their Windows network, right? So they don't have to remember another username and password. So customizing gives you complete control over the design of your site, unlike if you were to host at YouTube or some other commercial provider that has limited customization. And allows you to adhere to your brand and your identity. So you can really make the site look however you want. I mean, you've seen what we did at Plone TV. It's not, that much different from the default Plone look and feel, but really the sky's the limit as far as how you want the site to look. And you can integrate with other systems. So your backend Active Directory, other relational databases. That's something you can't really get if you're going with a commercial service that's kind of locked you down to certain functionality. So some of the other things that we're planning to do with plone.tv in the future, we'd like to be able to auto-download content from these different video sharing sites. So why should I have to manually, type in this URL? Why couldn't I subscribe to a tag? Say I want, every time a video about Grok is posted to YouTube, I want to have that content appear on my Plone site. There's a product called FeedFeeder that basically takes content in the form of RSS feeds from an external site, pulls it into your Plone site. So there's no reason we couldn't take that and adapt it to work with video content or audio content. We'd like to be able to add some social networking features. So you already saw the commenting, rating, tagging, being able to see what videos your friends are looking at. That's another really great way of discovering new content on your site. Currently, when you upload a video, it plays that video back in the native format, whether it's QuickTime or Windows Media or Flash. We'd like to be able to transcode those videos into Flash, which is a more ubiquitous format for the web. It's supported by 98% of all browsers, unlike QuickTime or Windows Media, which is maybe 40 or 50%, depending on whether you have a Mac or Windows. Lastly, we'd like to make it easier to install. Thanks to Steve McMahon, we have the build-out-based installer, which is a point-and-click installer for Plone, which also comes with the build-out. So it would be fairly easy to modify that point-and-click based installer and add a few additional products that we want to install on our Plone site to give it the audio and video capabilities. So for those of you who are developers or integrators in the room, how many people are using build-out already? Okay. So if you want to add this to your Plone site, this is what you would do. You would add these 3 eggs to your build-out egg section: the audio, the video, and the video embed. Obviously, if you didn't need either of those, you could leave out that egg. And then you have to add these 3 ZCML statements to the instance section of your build-out. And that's it. You just add that to your build-out, you rerun your build-out, and you have all this capability on your Plone site. So a few other things to keep in mind when you're dealing with large multimedia files is that, as I mentioned earlier, Plone Zope rather doesn't handle large files very good. So one of the things that's emerged recently is something called Plone App Blob, which is our Plone wrapper around the Zope's native blob support. So Zope recently came out with an implementation that allows you to store the large files on the file system. And Plone App Blob basically brings that capability to Plone. Previously, we had to use archetypes storage layer. So file system storage is an example of a product that uses that, as is external storage. The problem with these 2 products is they're sort of hacks in that they're solving the problem at the wrong layer. Archetypes really shouldn't have to deal with these large files. It should really be done at the Zope layer, and that's what Plone App Blob does for you. File system storage is still a more mature product. It's been out there, battle tested. It's being used in production on a lot of sites. So if you're running, a production site, it's probably better to go with that one for now. Plone App Blob it has been tested and it has pretty good test coverage, but it's still, rather new, and still maybe some more work that has to be done to fully integrate that. And external storage was kind of the first implementation of doing this, and was used for a long time on plone.org. Every time you upload a file to plone.org, it was stored on the file system using external storage. But with the recent migration of plone.org to Plone 3, they're now switching to use Plone App Blob instead of external storage. So this is going to be a more supported way of doing it from now on. So I would recommend, if you don't have to launch tomorrow, I would recommend going with the Plone App Blob for large file support. So that's storing large files. Well, the other thing is uploading them. If you've ever had to upload a large file to any site, not just a Plone site, it's very tedious. If you're on a Mac, you see the spinning beach ball, and there's really no progress. Like, is my video file getting uploaded? I don't know. So we developed a product called Plone Flash Upload, which uses Flash to upload files in bulk. So you can just point and click, command click a whole bunch of different files, and then it queues them up, and then it gives you a progress bar, and it shows you, how long it's taking to upload each file. And it's not just media files, it could be any kind of file, PDF, Word, Excel, images. But we found that when you're uploading large files like audio and video, it's really useful to have some feedback about, how long it's taking to upload those files. There's another one called plone JUpload, which we used for a while, but Java's not as well supported in browsers as Flash is. If everyone in your organization has Java installed on their computer, then maybe you want to look at that one as well. Zip file transport is interesting in that you can create a zip file of all of your content you want to upload, say your images or your video files or audio files, and then you upload that zip file to your plone site, and then the server will uncompress all those files and then create all the objects. So you can just you can upload a whole bunch of content in one go. And that was also created by Brent and Dave from Utah State University. The same guys that did the content licensing also developed this. And lastly, another really cool feature that's not very well advertising about Plone is that it has, thanks to Zope, it has a built-in WebDAV and FTP server. So you don't have to upload content through the browser. You can also drag and drop it using FTP or WebDAV. So you can actually mount your entire Plone site as a WebDAV volume or an FTP server, and just from the Finder, or if you're on Windows, from Windows Explorer, just drag it right into your Plone site. So that's another really useful way to get this kind of content into your Plone site. So that's uploading with Zope. Well, what if you're uploading like, 70 megabyte, 100 megabyte video files into your Plone site and you have 4 threads? Well, what happens if 4 people are uploading 4 300 megabyte files in your Plone site? What's going to happen when the 5th person hits your website? They're not going to get anything, right? All 4 threads will be consumed. So if you have a website with a lot of people contributing large videos or large files, you probably don't even want Zope to get involved in that upload process at all. You probably want to have someone else handle that. And there's a number of solutions that are out there. One that was developed by Infray. They don't actually do any Plone work as far as I know, but they do make another Zope-based software called Silva. They built something called Tramline, which intercepts the upload request. So when you do an upload, it will actually, Zope will hand it off to Apache and say, here Apache, here's a large file, can you go process that? And then it gives the control back to the browser. And then when Apache's done uploading that, it sends a pointer back to Zope and says, here's where I put that file. And there's been a couple Plone archetypes-based implementations of Tramline. So I think are any of the Pareto guys here in the room? Okay, there's some people here from the Netherlands who've used Tramline rather successfully in Plone. So if you're looking to do this, you might want to grab them and talk to them about it. Another way is to use, not even to store your files on your server, but to store them in the cloud. And Amazon has provided a service called S3, which stands for Simple Storage Solution. Is that right? Yeah, 3 S's. And they have support for HTTP post, which means that you can sort of override the default upload form in your Plone site, and you can upload, transparent to the user, that file will actually get uploaded to Amazon S3 and stored in the cloud at Amazon. And then Amazon will send back a message and say, well, here's the URL to where I uploaded that file. And your users are never the wiser. They don't know that that file was actually stored somewhere in the cloud. You don't have to worry about, the tax that upload takes on your server. I'm just getting the time signal, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. And the last one is blip.tv. They have a Python, a REST-based upload script that you could upload the videos directly to blip.tv and never even touch Zope. So those are 3 different options. I want to point out that the P4A mailing list has been growing steadily over the years. We're now up to about 200, I think the latest 196 members have joined. And it's my phone telling me I'm out of time. Stop. Okay. So I encourage you, if you're doing any video, audio work in Plone, I encourage you to sign up for the mailing list and ask away, ask questions. That's what it's there for. And you can get more information on these URLs, ploneforartists.org. And we just moved over all the issue trackers to dev.ploneforartists.org, which is running ClueMapper, which is a track-based issue tracking project management tool that we've developed. And there's a discussion forum, as I just mentioned, IRC. If you're on irc.freenode.net, you can join the Plone for Artists channel, and we're usually in there at all hours of the day. And if you're a coder, you can get the latest code from the Subversion repository down there. And I want to promote the multimedia sprint that's happening this weekend. If you're going to be around this weekend, we'd love to have you join us. You don't have to be a coder. We need people to test the software. We need people to write documentation. We need people to give us feature requests and ideas and help us kind of shape where the software is going. So if you're using multimedia on your website and you want to learn more, a sprint is a really great way to get involved and to help us out. I think that's it. Do we have time for one or two questions before I wrap up? Any questions? Yes?
When something like Google comes and spiders your site, does it get the metadata out of these objects?
Well, the Google bot is going to grab everything it can find on the page. It doesn't necessarily know that this is the artist field or the album field. It's just going to grab everything and index it all. But if you have an MP3 file and someone, some sites can spider, actually download the MP3 files, they can index all that metadata. It's stored in your MP3 file if you allow downloads of the MP3 files. Yeah, it's basically whatever's on the screen is what Google is gonna see and what they're gonna index. Google is not smart enough to actually go in and extract that metadata on an explicit level. This loading internet connection is kind of slow. Question, Tatsu? Sorry, could you speak up, please? Do we think we'll have page links? Explain what you mean by page links. Oh, there's a plugin for Plone called Plone Bookmarklets that you just plug that into your site and it gives you those little submit to dig, submit to delicious, whatever. I think we actually have it on plone.tv. It's just an add-on product for Plone. Other question? Yep.
Do you know if you're planning in the future to have support for any other Flash player than Flow player?
Yeah, we've done some experimentation with JW Player on Plone TV. The only problem with JW Player is that it's not fully open source. Like if you're running a commercial site, you have to pay a license fee. So we don't really feel right about distributing that with the P4A suite of products. I mean, you're free to install it, and maybe we can add some sort of hook in if you want to use that one instead of Flow Player. But one more question, and then Matt's going to kill me if I don't stop. Yeah.
Do you have any experience with using closed captioning or subtitling with videos for accessibility?
That's a good question. The question was, do we have any experience using closed captioning or subtitling for videos? We haven't done that, but the JW Player has really good support for captioning. So if that's something you need to do on your site, I'd recommend looking at that player. Okay, well, my list of questions isn't really coming up right now, but if you had a question and it didn't get answered, go to tinyurl/Plone Multimedia and ask your question or vote for the questions that are there, and I'll do my best to try to answer them, shortly. So thank you all for your attention.